Good day or evening, dear participants. In this third lecture of Module 2, we are going to focus on the curriculum design models and school-based curriculum. This lecture extends the focus of curriculum models from an emphasis on learning outcomes to achieving the learning outcomes through student-centered curricula. Emphasis is also placed on administering problem-based learning with authentic, real-world problems in order to align what students should know and be able to do with what society expects them to know and be able to do in the real world. Based on this focus, there are numerous models for designing curriculum. These are subject-centered, learner-centered, and problem-centered designs. Be aware that subject-centered design focuses on particular subjects such as mathematics, physics, biology, etc. It is by far the most common curriculum design. However, it is criticized for lacking student engagement and motivation, which causes some students to fall behind. The learner-centered design focuses on the needs, interests, and goals of the student. This design fosters student engagement and motivation. It is also criticized for creating pressure to formulate content based on student needs and preferences, thereby impacting the required outcomes of the course. Problem-centered curriculum presents students with real-life problems for them to solve. The approach fosters transference of problem-solving skills to the real world and encourages innovation, creativity, and collaboration in the classroom. It is criticized for not allowing for individual student needs and interests. Therefore, considering different curriculum design models will lead to the best model for their students. In fact, it is becoming increasingly common to have a curriculum designed taking into account aspects therefrom several models. For example, a subject-centered curriculum may have elements of both student-centered and problem-centered designs. Courses that are subject-centered can be delivered with elements of student-centered and problem-centered designs. Regardless of what curriculum design is followed, the design should consider what the student needs to know, what the student should be able to do, and what the student needs to be. Students need to know the theoretical content that is relevant to their profession for the case of adult learners. Relevance can be viewed from the point of view of the learner, societal needs, global trends, and stakeholders such as employers, academics, civil society, and others. The UNESCO International Bureau of Education observed that the period between 2000 and 2015, the end of the Dakar Education for All mandate, has seen a global emphasis on assessing the basic competencies of reading, numeracy, and in some instances science. However, moving beyond 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals emphasize other aspects of learning in the curriculum as well, with the overall aim of empowering students with cognitive and non-cognitive competencies that will make them confident to use these skills for full and productive economic, social, environmental, and personal engagement. Let us considering the following trends. It is important to identify what students should know and be able to do, and this can be approached through three main gateways. 1. Through learning contents. The most traditional approach, based on presenting codified and formalized lists of desirable knowledge, rules, principles, facts, methods, procedures, etc., that must be transferred to students. 2. Through learning objectives. This approach was emphasized during the 1960s. An objective is a learning goal formulated as a behavior that the student must demonstrate in a determinable form. 3. Through competencies. The newest trend in which competency is the ability to face complex situations by mobilizing specific knowledge and general cognitive and non-cognitive resources. Let us now focus on some approaches. Let us start with content-based approach. This classic approach is based on a sequence of topics to be developed. The teaching process develops in a linear progression and is linked to a sequence mandated by the content. Content delivery is planned so that its complexity increases gradually and prerequisite knowledge must be acquired before progressing to the next step. Content may be organized according to discipline, but also according to theme, e.g., centers of interest, favoring an interdisciplinary approach. Concerning the objectives-based approach, the development of an objectives-based curriculum occurred in the United States of America under the influence of behaviorist psychology. Under this type of curriculum, learning is understood as a change in the perceptible behavior of students, and the best-known system was Bloom's taxonomy of educational, which classified objectives into domains, particularly cognitive and affective domains. Others later added more dimensions, including the psychomotor domain. All these three domains constitute the Bloom's taxonomy. The advantage of this approach is that it is centered on the learner and their activity, providing a definite notion of the scope devised for the content and also helping to determine better assessment criteria. Critics have argued that objectives-based curricula are burdensome and mechanical, ignoring differences between learners. Such curricula may seem vague if their list of objectives is too short, or useless if the list is too long. Some argue that objectives-based curricula may be well suited to particular subject areas like science or mathematics, but that in other areas where autonomous, personal judgments of value or taste are required, objectives are of limited use. Let us now talk about the most popular approach, the competency-based approach, stemming from a growing concern about the equity, quality, and relevance of education, and partly as a result of the need to frame education goals around broad social expectations and demands. Competencies have increasingly become an important component of education discourse and practice. Competency-based curricula tend to avoid a subject-based approach and emphasize the intersection of learning areas by exploring transversal themes or offering more realistic scenarios across several disciplines, linking them to real-life challenges and problems. The above approaches for addressing what students should know and be able to do must be embedded in a student-centered curriculum in order to achieve effective learning. It is important to ensure that the curriculum design has sufficient student-centeredness. Student-centeredness can be enhanced by giving students learning tasks that engage them in dealing with authentic, real-world problems which reflect the types of problems the students are likely to encounter in the real world. Studies have shown that dealing with such problems enhances the problem-solving skills of students, in addition to giving them practical experience on how to solve real-world problems, according to Ali arguments in 2019. An understanding of curriculum design models and their implementation is important for effective teaching and learning. It is therefore important that educators understand the different curriculum design models and are able to use that understanding to integrate student-centered and problem-based learning in their curricula. The development of a student-centered curriculum is best done across an entire program in the department. It is therefore important that the curriculum design process is undertaken collaboratively. Collaboration among teaching staff at departmental level can be achieved through a community of practice, COP, as Irving and Caballero argued in 2020. Developing a student-centered curriculum collaboratively through a COP in the department is more likely to ensure that the designed curriculum turns out to be the implemented curriculum across the program. Further, developing curricula collaboratively through a community of practice, COP, is likely to introduce diverse ideas into the curriculum. The use of COPs in curriculum development will help to address the issue of who is included or excluded from the curriculum development process, and also ensure that diverse ideas from members of the COP filter into the curriculum. Diverse ideas will promote the development of decentralized curricula that can respond to issues of pandemics, climate change, and migration. Therefore, this lecture was designed to help you understand and implement different curriculum design models at the individual level and also at the group level to model a department-level COP approach. Let us talk about the school curriculum framework. This part of the lecture briefly introduces the concept of school-based curriculum development, which involves the participation of school staff and the community in designing and implementing a curriculum that suits their needs and identity. It also describes the role of a school curriculum framework as a tool to guide and support schools in planning and developing their own curriculum, and how it relates to the National Curriculum Framework and other documents. Concerning a syllabus, one of the important curriculum documents is the syllabus, which is a resource that outlines the specific features and requirements of a course, unit, or subject, such as the aims, objectives, content, teaching, and assessment methods. It also discusses the importance and functions of syllabuses in school education and how they should be aligned with the curriculum framework. Take cognizance that syllabuses can be developed at different levels, from central to school-based levels. Lesson plans. This section introduces lesson plans as teachers' outlines of activities that will lead to learners achieving desired learning outcomes. It lists the possible elements and characteristics of a lesson plan, such as the learning objectives, content, materials, activities, timing, and evaluation. It also acknowledges the need for flexibility and adaptation of lesson plans to the local context and the actual classroom situation. It is important to note that the planning of courses and classes are crucial for the success of any learning journey. The following should be considered. Any teaching delivery requires a process of planning courses and classes based on the syllabus and the curriculum materials. Such plan explains how the syllabus topics are divided into manageable units that are organized around central topics and follow pedagogical principles. It also emphasizes the role of curriculum materials, such as textbooks and teachers' guides, in providing more information and guidance for the content, concepts, skills, and activities of the lessons. The plan then focuses on the individual lesson or set of sessions, which is the detailed description of the teaching and learning activity for a specific day and time. Be aware that lesson plans are working hypotheses that may change depending on the classroom dynamics and variables. It also cautions against relying too much on commercial curriculum materials and textbooks that may not reflect the real learning context. Let us reflect a little bit now. In this lecture, we discussed aspects that aimed at helping you understand the concept of a curriculum and curriculum framework, including its characteristics. The lecture also helps you further understand the choices that are made in the process of curriculum framework development. Then, what questions should we start asking ourselves? What comes to my immediate thinking is 1. Why is the curriculum framework necessary? 2. What are the functions of a curriculum framework? 3. Outline the elements of a curriculum at national, school, and classroom levels. 4. What are the differences and similarities that exist between school curriculum and national curriculum frameworks? Reflect in writing on these 4 questions using the Gibbs Reflective Cycle Guide, which will be shared with you in this module. Compile your reflection in the e-journal available within the e-learning platform in use in this self-paced online course. A video will be shared with you demonstrating how to create your electronic journal. Share your reflections with your colleagues at work, and also share them on the Community of Practice platform, which will be shared with you. In conclusion, this lecture discusses the various aspects of curriculum design models and school-based curriculum development. It explains the differences and advantages of content-based, objectives-based, and competency-based approaches, and how they can be integrated with student-centered and problem-based learning. It also introduces the concepts of school curriculum framework, syllabus, and lesson plan, and how they relate to the National Curriculum Framework and the curriculum materials. It highlights the importance of planning courses and classes based on the syllabus and the curriculum materials, and the need for flexibility and adaptation to the local and classroom contexts. Finally, it invites the participants to reflect on some questions related to the curriculum framework and its functions, elements, and levels. If you have any questions or challenges with any of the concepts discussed in this lecture, please use the discussion forum of Module 2 under Lecture 3 to pose questions and answer other participants' questions as well. Thank you for your attention.